Aisha stood by her bedroom window, gazing out at the small African village that cradled her home. The sun bathed the streets in golden light, illuminating the vibrant colors of the mud brick houses and the lush greenery surrounding them. Yet, despite the beauty of her surroundings, it failed to dispel the shadows of uncertainty clouding her heart. At just 22, she was a young woman brimming with dreams, aspirations, and a desire for adventure. Her passion for art and travel ignited her spirit, but her reality was tethered to a life she had not chosen for herself. In this village, where tradition and societal expectations reigned supreme, her marriage to Mr. Thompson loomed over her like a heavy shroud. The whispers of her family echoed in her mind, reminding her of the customs they upheld. They painted a picture of a perfect match, a wealthy older man who could provide for her and secure her future. Yet, as Aisha succumbed to familial pressures, she found herself standing at the altar, a bride to a man nearly twice her age, feeling like a pawn in a game she never wanted to play. Mr. Thompson, a distinguished gentleman in his late 40s, had an air of sophistication that both fascinated and intimidated her. He was kind in his own way, showering her with gifts and affection, yet Aisha felt a chasm between them that could not be bridged by wealth or status. His experiences were vast, filled with stories of a life she could not relate to, while her own life was still unfolding, filled with hopes and dreams unfulfilled. As days turned into weeks, Aisha's emotional turmoil deepened. She grappled with the reality of her marriage, an arrangement that felt more like a business deal than a union of hearts. Mr. Thompson's well-meaning gestures often fell flat, and the weight of her loneliness became unbearable. While he offered stability, Aisha craved freedom, the freedom to explore her passions, to create, and to find love in its truest form. In the quiet moments of the night, Aisha found solace in her art, pouring her emotions onto the canvas as she painted vibrant scenes of far-off places and joyous encounters. Each stroke was a reflection of her yearning for a life filled with adventure, laughter, and love. Everything she felt was slipping away in the confines of her marriage. With each passing day, Aisha's dreams clashed with the reality of her circumstances. She longed for a spark of excitement, a glimpse of what life could be beyond the walls of her home. As the expectations of her family weighed heavily on her, the voice of her heart grew louder, whispering of the possibilities that awaited her if only she had the courage to pursue them. In the midst of her turmoil, Aisha held onto a flicker of hope, a hope that fate would intervene, that there was a way to rewrite her story, and that her dreams were still within reach. Little did she know that the journey ahead would challenge her to confront her deepest fears, test her resilience, and ultimately lead her toward a path she had never imagined possible. As Aisha stepped into her new life as Mrs. Thompson, the reality of her situation began to settle in like a thick fog. The once vibrant dreams of adventure that danced in her mind seemed to fade, replaced by the starkness of her new home. The house was grand, filled with fine furniture and expensive decor, but it felt more like a gilded cage than a sanctuary. Every corner echoed with silence, amplifying her sense of isolation. Initially, Aisha tried to adapt, embracing the role expected of her as a wife. She learned the routines of household management, often finding herself immersed in tasks that felt foreign and unfulfilling. Mr. Thompson, though kind and courteous, often spent his days in meetings or attending to business affairs, leaving Aisha to navigate the vast house alone. The days turned into long stretches of time, where her only companions were the paintings on the walls and the distant sound of her husband's footsteps. The age gap between them loomed larger than Aisha had anticipated. Mr. Thompson had a wealth of experience, yet it often manifested as a form of distance rather than connection. Their conversations, once filled with curiosity and laughter, devolved into polite exchanges that felt rehearsed. Aisha found herself yearning for a deeper emotional connection, a bond that transcended their differences in age and life experience. She wanted to share her dreams, her aspirations, and the vibrant colors of her imagination, but Mr. Thompson seemed rooted in a world that felt far removed from her own. At family gatherings, Aisha felt like an outsider. The conversations flowed easily among Mr. Thompson's relatives, who were well acquainted with each other's lives. Aisha struggled to find her place amidst their discussions of business ventures and societal expectations. She tried to engage, but her youthful perspective often felt out of place in a room filled with older adults who viewed life through a lens of practicality and tradition. The expectations placed upon her to conform only added to her sense of alienation. Despite the challenges, Aisha found solace in a few close friends from her village. They had attended her wedding and offered their best wishes, but their concern for her well-being grew more pronounced with each passing visit. During their meetings, they would share stories and laughter, reminiscing about their carefree days before marriage. Their warmth provided Aisha with a brief escape from her loneliness, but it was often tinged with the underlying tension of her situation. Each time they asked about her marriage, Aisha felt the weight of unspoken questions hanging in the air. Were they worried for her? Did they sense the cracks forming in her seemingly perfect life? One afternoon, as Aisha met with her friend Lena at a local cafe, the conversation took a more serious turn. Lena leaned in, concern etched across her face. "Aisha, are you truly happy? This isn't the life we dreamed of, is it?" The question struck a chord deep within Aisha, stirring emotions she had been trying to suppress. I'm adjusting," Aisha replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's just different. I'm still getting used to everything." Lena's brow furrowed, and she placed a comforting hand on Aisha's. "You know you deserve more than just adjusting, right? You deserve to thrive, to follow your dreams. We all do." As Aisha looked into her friend's earnest eyes, she felt a surge of longing for the life she had put on hold. Her heart ached for the vibrant connections, the artistic pursuits, and the sense of purpose that seemed to have vanished since her marriage. Yet the fear of disappointing her family and societal expectations held her back, binding her to a life that felt increasingly unfulfilling. Back at home, Aisha often found herself retreating into her art. In the quiet hours of the night, she poured her emotions onto the canvas, using colours to express the turmoil within her. Each brushstroke was a release, a cry for freedom, and a reminder of the dreams that still flickered in her heart. But even this solace was tinged with sorrow, as she realised how far removed she was from the life she truly desired. As the days turned into weeks, Aisha grappled with the weight of her choices, the loneliness, the lack of emotional connection with Mr. Thompson, and the societal expectations surrounding her felt like an invisible chain, binding her to a life she had not chosen. With every passing moment, she knew that something had to change, that her heart was yearning for a path yet to be discovered. Little did she know, fate was about to intervene in ways she could never have imagined. Aisha's heart fluttered with excitement as she perused the local art exhibition that had come to the village. The colourful paintings displayed in the community hall were like windows to different worlds, each canvas telling stories of hope, struggle, and the beauty of life. She felt a magnetic pull toward the artwork, and the familiar urge to paint returned stronger than ever. While admiring a vibrant piece that depicted a sunset over the savannah, she overheard a conversation between two artists. They were discussing an upcoming art retreat, a week-long workshop in a nearby town led by a renowned artist from the city. The retreat promised not only skill development, but also the chance to connect with like-minded individuals and immerse herself in creativity. Aisha's heart raced at the thought of joining. That evening, she approached Mr. Thompson with her proposal, excitement bubbling within her. "I found out about an art retreat happening soon. I would love to attend, to learn and grow as an artist." She spoke with enthusiasm, her eyes shining with hope. Mr. Thompson's expression shifted immediately. "An art retreat? Aisha, that sounds frivolous. You have responsibilities here as my wife. he replied firmly, his tone lacking any trace of warmth. Your focus should be on our home and the life we are building together. His words struck Aisha like a thunderclap, extinguishing the flicker of hope that had ignited within her. But art is my passion. I need to pursue it, to express myself. It's important to me, she pleaded, trying to convey the depth of her longing. Aisha, I understand your desires, but you must see it from my perspective. We are married now, and your obligations come first, he said, a hint of finality in his voice. Aisha felt a familiar wave of frustration wash over her. Once again, the tension between her dreams and her role as a wife had surfaced, leaving her feeling trapped and unheard. In the following days, Aisha found herself in turmoil, torn between her desire for independence and the weight of her obligations. She wrestled with the notion of seeking freedom, yet felt the societal expectations pressing down on her. The fear of disappointing Mr. Thompson, of being perceived as selfish or irresponsible, held her back. Each night, as she lay awake, the canvases of her imagination flickered with visions of a life filled with colour, but they were always accompanied by the shadows of doubt and guilt. Then, one afternoon, as Aisha was painting in the village square, she met Sam, a young man visiting from a neighbouring town. He was warm and kind, with an easy smile that immediately put her at ease. Sam noticed her artwork and struck up a conversation, genuinely interested in her creative process. Your work is incredible. You have such a unique style. What inspires you? He asked, his enthusiasm infectious. Aisha felt a surge of energy as she spoke about her love for art, sharing her dreams and aspirations. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, each word igniting a spark of inspiration in her soul. Sam listened intently, offering encouragement and insights that made Aisha feel seen and understood. It was a refreshing change from the weight of her life at home. As days passed, Aisha and Sam began to meet regularly. They explored the village together, sharing stories of their lives, their dreams, and their passions. With Sam, Aisha felt a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in a long time. He encouraged her to pursue her art, suggesting they collaborate on a project that could be displayed at the upcoming village festival. The idea thrilled Aisha, and for the first time in a while, she felt the exhilarating rush of possibility. During one of their painting sessions, as they worked side by side under the warm sun, Sam turned to her with a serious expression. Aisha, you have so much talent. Don't let anyone hold you back. You deserve to chase your dreams and find your own path. His words resonated deeply within her, igniting a longing to break free from the confines of her marriage. Their friendship deepened, and Aisha found herself drawn to Sam's kindness and passion for life. She admired his artistic vision and the way he approached each moment with enthusiasm. It was through these shared experiences that Aisha began to rediscover her own sense of self, the vibrant girl who had once been full of dreams. In the moments they spent together, laughter replaced the loneliness that had shadowed Aisha's days. Each brushstroke became a symbol of her liberation, a step toward reclaiming her identity. The budding connection between Aisha and Sam was undeniable, filled with the promise of companionship and understanding that she had longed for. As they painted side by side, Aisha felt a profound sense of hope blossoming within her. The art retreat still lingered in her mind, calling to her like a distant melody. With Sam's encouragement, she dared to consider the possibility of pursuing her passion, of stepping into a future that felt within her grasp. Yet, the complexities of her marriage loomed over her, reminding her of the responsibilities she had chosen. Aisha stood at a crossroads, torn between the comfortable yet stifling life she knew and the exhilarating unknown that beckoned her forward. Little did she realize, this connection with Sam would become a catalyst for the change she so desperately sought. Aisha's newfound sense of freedom was suddenly overshadowed when she received a phone call that sent her world spiraling. Mr. Thompson had collapsed during a business meeting and was rushed to the hospital. Panic surged through her as she rushed to the hospital, her heart racing with worry. The vibrant colors of her life seemed to dim, replaced by an overwhelming anxiety that clouded her thoughts. When she arrived, the sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the bright lights of the hospital illuminated the grim expressions of Mr. Thompson's colleagues. As she hurried to his room, Aisha found him lying on the bed, pale and frail. The sight of him, so vulnerable and uncharacteristically weak, tugged at her heart. She rushed to his side, holding his hand tightly, tears brimming in her eyes. "Aisha," he whispered, his voice weak. "I'm sorry for worrying you. It's just a scare, they say." But Aisha could see the fear in his eyes, the way his body trembled with uncertainty. The doctor soon arrived, explaining that Mr. Thompson had experienced a mild heart attack, a warning sign that he needed to make significant lifestyle changes. Aisha felt a mix of relief and dread wash over her. This was a moment of vulnerability for him, and she knew she had to be there for him, yet she couldn't shake the feeling of entrapment. In the days that followed, Mr. Thompson's recovery brought Aisha into closer proximity to her marital responsibilities. As he struggled to adjust to his new reality, he leaned on her more than ever. The weight of caring for him felt heavy, demanding her attention and affection. Yet, with every passing day, the emotional connection she had longed for seemed to slip further away. She poured herself into nurturing him, but her heart ached for the independence she had only just begun to taste. During this turbulent time, Aisha continued to see Sam, who provided a comforting presence. Their conversations deepened, each meeting reinforcing the bond that had blossomed between them. Sam was understanding and supportive, always encouraging Aisha to express her true feelings and aspirations. As she confided in him about the challenges of her marriage, he listened intently, never dismissing her concerns. One evening, as they painted together in the fading light of the sunset, Aisha felt an overwhelming surge of emotions. "I just don't know what to do anymore, Sam," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions. I care for Mr. Thompson, but I also want to pursue my own dreams. Am I being selfish?" Sam looked at her with sincerity. "You're not selfish for wanting happiness, Aisha. You deserve to live a life that brings you joy and fulfillment. It's not about abandoning your responsibilities, but finding a way to balance them with your needs." Aisha felt the weight of his words settle deep within her. The truth was, she had always prioritized others' expectations over her own desires. But as she stared into Sam's eyes, filled with kindness and understanding, a realization began to dawn on her. She deserved to choose her own path. As the weeks passed, Aisha found herself at a crossroads. Mr. Thompson's condition improved, but the strain of their marriage weighed heavily on her heart. She would sit by his side, holding his hand as he spoke about the changes he needed to make, the dreams he had yet to fulfill. Yet, deep down, Aisha knew that the vibrant life she craved was slipping further from her grasp. One afternoon, as Aisha sat in the garden reflecting on her choices, Sam appeared at her side. He could sense her turmoil and offered her a gentle smile. "Aisha, what do you really want? What does your heart say?" Her heart raced at the thought of choosing between duty and desire. She took a deep breath, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers. "I want to paint. I want to travel. I want to be free to explore who I am. I don't want to lose myself in this marriage." Sam nodded, his expression encouraging. "Then it's time to be honest with yourself and with Mr. Thompson. You deserve to find your happiness." That evening, Aisha sat on the edge of her bed, contemplating the impending conversation with Mr. Thompson. She felt the familiar knot of fear tighten in her stomach, but beneath it lay a glimmer of courage. She envisioned her future, the art retreats, the adventures, and the laughter she shared with Sam, and it filled her with hope. When Mr. Thompson returned home from the hospital, Aisha knew the moment had come. They sat together in the dim light of their living room, the silence hanging heavily between them. "We need to talk," she began, her voice steady yet soft. He looked at her with concern, sensing the gravity of her words. "What's on your mind, Aisha?" Taking a deep breath, she found the strength to speak her truth. "I've been feeling lost in this marriage. I want to pursue my art and live a life that fulfills me. I know you're recovering, and I want to support you, but I also need to take care of myself." Mr. Thompson's expression shifted from concern to surprise, and she watched as he processed her words. "Aisha, I didn't realize you felt this way. I thought you were happy with our life together." "I've tried to be, but I've neglected my own dreams for too long," she replied, her heart pounding. "I can't ignore who I am anymore." The tension in the room was palpable as Aisha waited for his response. Mr. Thompson looked down, grappling with the weight of her revelation. For the first time, Aisha felt the power of her choice to stand up for herself. It was a turning point, one that would ultimately lead her toward the happiness and fulfillment she had longed for. Little did she know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would redefine her life in ways she never imagined. The air was thick with tension as Aisha faced Mr. Thompson, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. His expression shifted from surprise to contemplation, and she felt the weight of her decision settling between them like an impenetrable wall. "I've tried to be the wife you want, but in doing so, I've lost myself," she said, her voice steady but trembling. "I need to find my own happiness, even if it means stepping away from this marriage." Mr. Thompson's brow furrowed as he absorbed her words. "You can't be serious, Aisha. We've built a life together. I thought you understood the importance of commitment." "It's not about commitment, Mr. Thompson. It's about my identity and my dreams. I can't continue to live a life that doesn't reflect who I am," she replied, her resolve hardening. The thought of abandoning her dreams had haunted her, but she could no longer ignore the truth. As their conversation unfolded, Aisha felt an unexpected sense of liberation wash over her. The more she expressed her feelings, the more she realized how stifled she had been. Mr. Thompson's defensiveness shifted to an acknowledgement of her struggles, yet he still grappled with the impending reality of losing her. "Aisha, I didn't realize how deeply you felt. I want to support you, but we can work through this together. You don't have to leave." Her heart ached at the thought of hurting him, yet she knew that staying would only breed resentment. "I appreciate your desire to support me, but I need space to discover who I am outside of this marriage. I want to pursue my art, and I can't do that if I'm still bound by the expectations of being your wife." After a long pause, Mr. Thompson finally nodded, sadness etched across his features. "If this is what you truly want, I can't stop you, but know that it will change everything." His voice cracked slightly, revealing the vulnerability he had long hidden behind a facade of strength. As Aisha left the room, she felt a mixture of relief and grief. She had finally spoken her truth, but the aftermath loomed large. Over the next few days, the reality of her decision began to settle in, creating ripples that extended far beyond her marriage. Aisha faced societal repercussions almost immediately. Word spread quickly through the village about her choice to separate from Mr. Thompson. The whispers turned into judgment, with some friends and family expressing concern for her well-being. "What will people say? You had a good life," her mother said, worry etched across her face. "You're throwing it all away for a dream." "I'm not throwing it away, Mom. I'm reclaiming my life," Aisha responded firmly, though the weight of their judgment felt suffocating. The pressure to conform to societal expectations hung heavy in the air, but Aisha refused to allow it to dictate her path. In the midst of the turmoil, she sought refuge in her art. Each brushstroke became a form of healing, a way to express her emotions and reclaim her identity. She began to paint with newfound vigor, channeling her struggles into vibrant colors and captivating imagery. The canvas transformed into her sanctuary, allowing her to explore her creativity without constraints. One evening, While painting under the dim light of her studio, Aisha received a message from Sam. He had heard about her separation from Mr. Thompson and reached out, offering his support. "I believe in you, Aisha. You're brave for following your heart. Let's meet and talk." When they met, Aisha felt a surge of warmth at Sam's encouragement. "I've been painting more since everything happened. It feels like a release," she confessed, her eyes lighting up with passion. "I'm starting to think about showcasing my work at the upcoming village festival." "That's amazing. You should share your art with the world," Sam said, his enthusiasm infectious. "You have a unique voice, and people need to see it." With Sam's support, Aisha began to step out of her comfort zone. She reached out to other artists in the community, connecting with them and gaining insight into the art world beyond her village. Aisha felt a sense of camaraderie with those who shared her passion, and they encouraged her to submit her pieces for the festival. As the days turned into weeks, Aisha poured herself into her art, embracing her independence and newfound freedom. She transformed her living space into a vibrant studio, filled with colors, textures, and inspiration. The fear of societal judgment lingered, but it no longer held power over her. Instead, she embraced her identity as an artist, unafraid to express her truth. On the day of the festival, Aisha stood nervously beside her artwork, heart pounding with excitement and apprehension. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as people mingled and admired the various pieces on display. When visitors began to engage with her paintings, sharing their interpretations and emotions, Aisha felt a surge of confidence. For the first time, she truly felt seen. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the festival, Aisha realized how far she had come. She had taken the courageous step to break free from a life that didn't align with her true self. No longer was she defined by her marriage or societal expectations. She was Aisha, an artist with dreams, passions, and the determination to create her own path. With Sam by her side, cheering her on, Aisha felt a sense of empowerment coursing through her veins. She was ready to embrace the future, a future filled with creativity, love, and the pursuit of happiness. The journey had been challenging, but each struggle had led her to this moment, where she could finally breathe, paint, and live life on her own terms. As she stood amidst the vibrant colors of her art, Aisha knew that this was just the beginning of her story. As Aisha stepped into her new home, a modest yet charming cottage on the outskirts of the village, she felt a wave of excitement mixed with trepidation. This space was hers, a blank canvas waiting to be filled with her identity. The walls were bare, but Aisha envisioned bright colors, art supplies scattered about, and the scent of creativity wafting through the air. The journey to independence was daunting, but she was determined to embrace every challenge it presented. Finding her footing in this new chapter required courage. She spent her days settling into the cottage, transforming it into a sanctuary where her artistic spirit could flourish. Aisha visited local markets, gathering supplies, paint and brushes to fill her new studio. Each item she purchased was a reminder of her commitment to herself, a step further away from the constraints of her past life. As she painted, Aisha found herself immersed in a world of colors and emotions. She explored new techniques and experimented with different styles, allowing her creativity to flow freely. The act of painting became a form of therapy, a way to process her feelings and rediscover who she was outside the confines of marriage. Each stroke of the brush was a declaration of her independence, a testament to her resilience. Aisha also began to explore opportunities in her community. She joined local art groups and workshops, connecting with fellow artists who inspired her to push her boundaries. With each interaction, she felt her confidence grow. It was a stark contrast to the isolation she had experienced during her marriage. Aisha was no longer just a wife. She was an artist, a creator, and a woman reclaiming her voice. Amidst this journey of self-discovery, her relationship with Sam deepened. Their friendship blossomed into something more as they supported each other's passions. Sam encouraged Aisha to showcase her art, and he often joined her in the studio, providing insight and sharing his own creative pursuits. Their shared laughter and conversations sparked joy within her, filling the void left by her previous life. One evening, as they painted together, Sam turned to her, his eyes filled with admiration. "Aisha, you've grown so much since I first met you. I see a fire in you that's inspiring," he said, genuine warmth radiating from his words. Aisha felt a blush creep to her cheeks as she absorbed his praise. "Thank you, Sam. I couldn't have done this without your support. You've helped me believe in myself again." Their connection deepened through shared moments of vulnerability. As they spent more time together, Aisha felt safe to express her fears and insecurities. "Sometimes, I still think about my past," she admitted one night as they shared a quiet moment on her porch. "I wonder if I made the right choice leaving Mr. Thompson." "It's normal to reflect on the past, but what matters is how you choose to move forward," Sam replied gently. "You've taken a brave step, Aisha. You deserve to pursue your dreams." Those words lingered in her mind, guiding her through moments of doubt. Aisha began to embrace her past, recognizing it as a crucial part of her journey. She acknowledged the pain of her marriage, but also celebrated her growth. It was a delicate balance, honoring where she had come from while looking ahead to the possibilities that lay before her. With each passing day, Aisha found herself more deeply immersed in her passions. She began organizing art classes for local children, hoping to ignite the same love for creativity that had transformed her life. Watching the children's faces light up as they painted their own visions filled her with joy and purpose. In these moments, she realized that her identity was not just tied to her art, but also to the impact she could have on others. As she embraced her newfound independence, Aisha felt a sense of self-reliance that empowered her. She was no longer defined by someone else's expectations. She was forging her own path. The cottage became a reflection of her journey, a vibrant space filled with art, laughter, and newfound freedom. In quiet moments of reflection, Aisha would stand in front of her easel, contemplating her journey. She would acknowledge the fear that had once held her captive and the strength that had emerged from it. With each piece she created, she wove her story into the fabric of her art, a tapestry of resilience, passion, and self-discovery. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a warm glow over her cottage, Aisha felt a profound sense of peace. She had embarked on a journey of rebuilding and rediscovery, one that had transformed her from a woman defined by her marriage into a vibrant artist ready to embrace the future. In that moment, she knew she was not just painting her life, she was living it fully, authentically, and with unwavering determination. Aisha's newfound sense of independence was put to the test. One sunny afternoon, when an unexpected visitor knocked on her cottage door. As she opened it, her heart sank at the sight of Mr. Thompson standing before her. He looked older than she remembered, a stark contrast to the man she had once known, and the emotional weight of their shared history hung in the air between them. "Aisha," he said, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, the memories of their tumultuous past flooding her mind. The pain of her marriage and the feelings of entrapment threatened to overwhelm her, but she steadied herself. "What do you want, Mr. Thompson?" she asked, striving to keep her voice calm. "I came to apologize," he began, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "I realize now how I took your dreams for granted. I didn't appreciate who you were and what you wanted out of life." Aisha felt a rush of emotions surge within her. Anger, sadness, but also an undeniable sense of power. "You didn't just take my dreams for granted, you overshadowed them. I lost myself trying to fit into the mold you created," she replied, her voice firm. "I need you to understand that I am not the same person you married. I've changed." Mr. Thompson nodded, shame washing over his features. I see that now. You've pursued your art, and I've heard wonderful things about your work. I'm proud of you, Aisha. But I want to try again. We can make this work if you give me another chance. Her heart raced, caught between the past and the possibilities of her future. Aisha could feel the weight of societal judgment looming over her as well. Would people see her as a failure for leaving? Would they judge her for considering reconciliation? The pressure to conform to expectations suffocated her, but she was no longer that timid young woman who had felt trapped. I can't go back to the life I had, she declared, her voice growing stronger. I found my voice and my passion, and I won't sacrifice that again for the comfort of familiarity. I deserve more than what we had. Tension crackled in the air as Mr. Thompson's expression shifted from desperation to realization. I understand if you don't want me back, Aisha, but you must know I still care for you. I appreciate that, but care isn't enough, she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. I need someone who supports me, who encourages me to grow, not someone who tries to hold me back. I have to think about what I truly want for myself. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken words. Aisha could see the conflict in Mr. Thompson's eyes as he grappled with her rejection. The vulnerability of their past loomed large, but she had transformed into a woman who stood her ground. As she felt the weight of her decisions settle within her, Aisha took a deep breath, summoning the strength she had built over the past months. I wish you well, Mr. Thompson, but I'm choosing to move forward without you. With those words, she felt a wave of liberation wash over her. She had confronted her past, faced the man who had once held her captive, and emerged stronger. It was a moment of truth, a defining choice that solidified her transformation. As she closed the door behind him, Aisha knew that her journey was far from over. But for the first time, she felt truly free. The emotional stakes had been high, but she had stood up for herself, reclaiming her narrative and setting her course toward a brighter future. With a renewed sense of purpose, she returned to her easel, ready to paint her next chapter. Aisha stood in her studio, sunlight pouring through the windows and illuminating the vibrant colors on her canvases. Each painting told a story of struggles, growth, and ultimately, freedom. The air was filled with the scent of fresh paint and the sound of soft music playing in the background, creating a sanctuary where she could fully embrace her creativity. After confronting Mr. Thompson, Aisha had finally begun to feel the weight of her past lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. In the weeks that followed, Aisha dedicated herself to her art with an intensity she had never experienced before. She showcased her work at local galleries, and the community responded with enthusiasm. Her paintings resonated with people, each piece reflecting the journey she had taken to reclaim her identity. It was a beautiful reminder that vulnerability can be transformed into strength, and she felt a deep sense of connection with those who appreciated her art. With the encouragement of her friends, including Sam, Aisha organized her first solo exhibition titled Awakening. The event drew an unexpected crowd, and as she mingled with guests, she felt a wave of excitement and pride. She realized how far she had come, from a young woman trapped in a loveless marriage to a passionate artist with dreams and aspirations. As she spoke to visitors, sharing the stories behind her paintings, Aisha felt empowered. She understood that her journey was not just about her art, it was a testament to her resilience and courage. Each conversation ignited a spark within her, reaffirming her commitment to follow her heart. On the night of the exhibition, surrounded by friends and supporters, Aisha took a moment to reflect on her journey. Standing before her favorite piece, a colorful representation of her transformation, she thought about the lessons she had learned. She understood now that true happiness could only be found by embracing one's own desires and dreams. Aisha's relationship with Sam blossomed during this time too. They shared laughter, dreams, and a deep understanding of each other's passions. Sam encouraged her to explore new avenues in her art, pushing her to take risks and be bold in her creative expression. Their bond grew stronger as they navigated their own journeys of self-discovery together, inspiring each other to chase their dreams fearlessly. As the exhibition came to a close, Aisha stood outside, watching the stars twinkle overhead. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey she had embarked on. Life had taken unexpected turns, leading her to places she had never imagined, but each twist had ultimately brought her closer to herself. In that moment, she made a silent promise to herself to continue embracing her passions and to never lose sight of the woman she had become. Aisha understood that life would still present challenges, but she was now equipped with the strength to face them head-on. As she walked back into her studio, Aisha felt an invigorating sense of hope. She knew that her story was still unfolding, and the future held endless possibilities. She had learned to trust in herself and her journey, embracing the idea that fate often leads us to unexpected and fulfilling paths. With a heart full of dreams and the courage to pursue them, Aisha was ready for whatever lay ahead. She had transformed her life, built a future aligned with her desires, and found her voice. In the quiet sanctuary of her studio, surrounded by her creations, Aisha embraced her new beginnings, knowing that the best was yet to come.